Life can place us in terrifying experiences, which we might not give importance to, but over time we may learn why we faced those experiences. Or we might spend our entire lives unaware of the reasons that pushed us into such trials. This is the journey of Mrs. Samia during the birth of her child and her encounter with the grieving lady. Samia, a 30-year-old woman who married years ago, had not been blessed with a child until 4 years later after extensive treatment and multiple attempts. Naturally, she opted for a private hospital to ensure high-quality care for both herself and her newborn. In October, when her due time arrived, Samia was escorted to the hospital by her mother and husband. Nurses soon began the process of administering anesthesia. Moments later, Samia felt the drug take effect, and her eyelids grew heavy. Between moments of wakefulness and sleep, she saw a lady in a blue dress standing behind the nurses, smiling at her, just before she slipped into a deep slumber. Samia awoke to find her newborn in her arms, and despite the pain, her face lit up with joy. After the examinations, the nurse placed the baby in a small crib in the same room as Samia. With orders from the head nurse for Samia to remain in the hospital for a few days until all examinations were complete, Samia and her husband agreed to this arrangement. Later that night, Samia was abruptly awakened by someone. Assuming it was her mother or husband, she turned to find the same lady in the blue dress sleeping beside her. Samia screamed in terror and asked who she was, but received no answer. The lady merely smiled, and her teeth began chattering loudly. Samia, realizing the lady could be a ghost, tried to run but felt her limbs pinned to the bed. The lady in the blue dress then approached the crying baby, picked him up, and patted his back until he calmed down. Samia struggled to move but couldn't. Suddenly, a nurse entered, and the lady placed the baby back in the crib and disappeared. Samia, now able to move, cried and recounted the experience, only for the nurse to assure her no such lady existed in the hospital. Samia's husband and mother stayed with her, and later that evening, the head nurse, after hearing the story, instructed them to leave the hospital. She explained that a year ago, on the same day, a lady in a blue dress died in that room during childbirth, and her newborn mysteriously vanished. Upon returning home, 5 days later, Samia noticed finger-like marks on her baby's back in the exact place the lady had patted. Strangely, the lady in the blue dress didn't leave Samia alone and appeared every year on the child's birthday.